your thoughts on poor Terry Gilliam becoming the latest victim of cancel culture?
I just think it's so tragic for our culture and our society. We're basically pandering to a group of people, a very, very small minority of people who will never, ever be satisfied, no matter what we do. And you're taking a great, huge talent like Terry Gilliam and cancelling him. And these people who sit there in their little grievance way that they do, they're the bullies. They're bullies. That's what they are. They cry victim, but they are bullies, and therefore they're cry bullies.
Why does it prosper so much, this scourge of cancel culture, in your profession, in acting, in the arts, in the theatre, where you'd think freedom of expression, freedom of speech would be sacrosanct?
It's not just show business; it's every single institution in this country has been overtaken by these religious cultist woke people, and it's terrifying because you can see how much damage can be done into a society in such a short period of time, and I think we should all be extremely concerned, and we should start standing up to them because they're bullies and they want to undermine and destroy the very fabric of our lives.
And what do you think? I mean, don't forget, this is the Old Vic Theatre, one of our most venerable theatres in London, really bowing to the fears and thoughts of just a very few employees. Now, Stephen Sondheim was apparently thrilled that Terry Gilliam was to direct this production because he's a man of great talent and he can make things look like no one else ever has. Fantastic films like Boys from Brazil, The Kingfisher, and remember his artwork in Monty Python. The man is a genius. So Sondheim was thrilled. He's 80 years old, and one or two of employees say, oh, well, we don't think he's sound on Me Too, and we don't think he's sound on trans rights. So what makes the Old Vic Theatre crumble just like that and cancel what would have been a massive hit and a massive compelling draw on the London theatrical scene?
Fear. I think it's fear. It's fear of. There's a germ of truth in all of this woke stuff. That we need to be compassionate and kind to each other. But the problem is we are fundamentally kind and compassionate to each other, and we're going to end up with a mirthless world with no laughter, with no different opinions, with everyone walking around going, "Good morning, citizen," unless we stand up and we turn around and we go, "I'm allowed to take the mickey out of you. I'm allowed to have an opinion which is different from yours." And just because from the minute you were shoved into the indoctrination factories of schooling in this country nowadays and taught to be sensitive and to be divided from your fellow peers, and all the way up through university as cancel culture is pushed down people's necks as the proper way to live, as people would much rather change other people's lives than their own. It's a cop-out. It's a way of not engaging with your own life, and it's utterly destructive to society. And they're bullies, and we should stand up to them and say, no, we're all very tolerant of you, and the only thing we're intolerant of is intolerance, and that we need to do that as a country. And these people in charge of these institutions are cowards. And luckily you've got the Restore Trust coming in, and you've got some institutions are going to get taken back. But we are in the fight for our national heritage at the moment, and even worse, we're in a fight for having a laugh.
Talking of which, Laurence, I mean, fair play to Netflix, which is at the heart of this issue we're talking about now. Netflix stood by Dave Chappelle, who had the temerity to make a program, a comedy stand-up routine, looking at the trans issues, which of course was immediately labelled transphobic. And Netflix stood by him, with the result there were lots of demonstrations outside of Netflix's Los Angeles headquarters. You might say that Netflix were standing by their most lucrative money-making star, but that notwithstanding, it was quite unusual for a company to stand by someone once they were picked on by the trans lobby. So what if Netflix can do that for Dave Chappelle? Why can't the Old Vic do that for Terry Gilliam? Because actually, Netflix hasn't suffered any harm by standing up to the trans lobby. Surely the Old Vic might actually benefit if it bravely stood up for itself.
Well, I think that more importantly, it's not standing up for Terry Gilliam or Dave Chappelle. It's standing up for your next door neighbour. It's standing up for the average man. Just because Dave Chappelle gets $20 million an episode special, and it leads a very privileged life, and is an insanely wonderful comedian, and I fully support what Terry Gilliam said about him. It's not about that though. This is about you and me. It's about people having their lives and livelihoods destroyed by people who will never be satisfied. This is a religion. This is a religion. Yeah. That we're facing the rise of a burgeoning religion, and we need to resist it because it's dangerous.
And underpinning this is this kind of incorrect belief that somehow or other it's against the law to offend anyone. It isn't.
It's soon going to be against the law to offend people.
Well, if we're not careful, do you remember the Liverpool police put up a big sign saying that it was against the law to be offensive until they were reminded that it isn't. And that's what we have to get over. That's the hurdle we have to get over. And that's what we have to tell anyone. I don't want to go out and offend people. I don't want to upset people. But it is my right to do it in a free country with free speech.
Well, it is at the moment, but wait till the online safety bill comes in. And, the impingements on free speech are tragic in this once free country. It's, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is not an England or Great Britain that I vaguely recognise from 18 months ago. Mm-hmm. And it was all happening before, but it's dreadful. Soon it will be illegal. We will have the same version of the Scottish hate crime bill in the UK unless people say no. I'm not going. We're all doing pretty well. Yes, there is direct examples of prejudice and discrimination and racism and stuff like this. But to label an entire population the way that we have been labelled as bigoted, horrible people is just appalling. And the coward, whoever runs the Old Vic, should grow a pair and say, no, Mr. Trans Activist, or they, them trans activist, or ye, yay, ziza, or whatever, and just go, just go, I'm really sorry. I'm not having my language disabused by you lot. And there's only about 10 of them as well.
I know.
It's not like there's hundreds of the walking around. Someone was tearing down. One guy turned up at the Dave Chappelle thing with a sign saying "I love jokes," and this little guy turned up and starts tearing it out of his hand. It's like, these are bullies. They're little. They're the grievance culture and teaching kids, they all have this terrible life. What an awful thing to do to your children. And I don't want my kids growing up in that world. Yeah. So I think it's good to take the mickey sometimes.
Yes, indeed. I can't let you go, Laurence, without getting your thoughts on the COP26 spectacle. Do you detect any slight signs of hypocrisy up there on the part of our world leaders lecturing us on how to live when they all arrive in private jets and stay in 5-star hotels and save the planet one banquet at a time?
Yeah, well, also it's extremely dangerous because what it is it's bypassing democracy. So they go, oh, we'll all fly in on our private jets and come up with a nice little agreement together. And then we go, well, we don't need to put it to the public because we've agreed that we're going to make you all freezing cold and you can have a nice mealworm burger and never go on holiday again. And I hope that the people of this country, come general election time, when we will actually be, as a party, we'll be able to give them an option, we'll go, no, actually, I quite like going on holiday and I quite like having a steak once in a while. And I don't hate being a human, and I don't see myself as a virus on this planet. It's dreadful, and I mean, what is Boris Johnson? What is the man?
I don't get it, man.
I've lost it. I'm looking at him, and he's doing these. He's like a game show host to me. That's what he reminds me of.
It's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. The whole thing is extraordinary. Today, Jeff Bezos flew in on his $60 million private jet to tell us how to live our lives. Leonardo DiCaprio flew in on a private jet to pick up an award for all his environmental work. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. What about Joe Biden's 85 cars he took with him and drove around Glasgow in a 20-car cavalcade, and that's supposed to be helping the planet? I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, could you?
Much worse. What about the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Oh God, we.
No, but this again, Kev, this is actually dangerous. What's happening here? Because the Archbishop of Canterbury is saying that there's going to be curses and things like that if people are not, and comparing the climate crisis to the Holocaust and what led up to that dreadful massacre in Germany. And he's sitting there and he's now going, the Archbishop of Canterbury going, the climate is not a scientific issue anymore, it's a moral one. And I've started to think that's a very, very dangerous game to play. And I'm also starting to think the Archbishop of Canterbury seems to be working for the other bloke.
Laurence, keep up the fight, hey? Don't ever change. Good to speak to you.